Sip, we've met now all of Matt Rhule's coaches, plus strength coach Corey Collier. Give me some of your early impressions of the Matt Rhule coaching staff.
Well, I would say that he's going to put a lot on those coordinators because of the youth below them. The coordinators are critical. That's one thing that comes to mind. Another thing that comes to mind is Marcus Satterfield. That whole spiel about he's going to use a huddle, and he wants to use a fullback, and they're gonna run the ball. I just, I have, when I envision that and close my eyes, I just love it. I just hope that's what we're seeing. It's a beautiful thought. So Satterfield and White are critical in this discussion because now they're critical because they have a lot of youth under them, but also because they're going to have to teach their systems to a lot of these guys. That like Wager and Satterfield have never worked together.
Wager,
Bob Wager. They haven't worked together. White hasn't worked with all those defensive coaches, so I know that's critical. He's going to have to teach that. Like I'd say right now it's going on probably right now that they have to teach their systems, and those coaches, assistant coaches, have to become very adept quickly. This is not a league where you get a lot of slack. I mean, the Big Ten is a coach's league. And as you've mentioned, Sean, they opened the season at Minnesota against a veteran staff. Now, then they go to Colorado, but I mean, Prime's Prime. Prime's pretty proven. So they're going to, I don't know what Prime's staff looks like, but they got to get
Tim Brewster's on that staff.
They got to get stuff in order. These are two big games right out of the gate. And of course, we're giving Matt Rhule plenty of slack. Nobody's putting pressure on them. But Sean, when the lights come on and you're keeping score in the games on TV, that's pressure. I mean, I'm not saying that we're putting pressure on, but the world's watching those games. Okay,
yeah, those viewership numbers
will be gigantic.
Will be huge. Yeah. I mean, that Thursday night game will have a massive number because it's the first game of the season in college football, again, for Nebraska, by the way. I guess Notre Dame's going to play in Ireland this year, but Nebraska opened the season last year on Fox. And then this Colorado game, when you talk about Pac-12 television property, Nebraska at Colorado will be as prime of a piece as they have in that package. Yeah. So will that be elevated to a night game? Will Big Noon want to put it at, I mean, I think actually for Nebraska's sake, you hope it's Big Noon. Then it's a 10 a.m. kick in Boulder. But would they do that? Would the Pac-12 do that?
I don't know. But back to the coaches, the impressions. The reason I bring that up, no, that's okay. The reason I bring that up is because we've heard from all of them now. We've heard Matt Rhule had his guys talk to the media, each of the guys. So now we have an idea. And I'm not judging them off of a press conference. In fact, I'd give this 2 years before I really judge anybody harshly, but we got a better idea of what we're dealing with now. And I think it was a good picture. I thought, for instance, Rob Dvorak, there was a good question asked of him how would you describe Tony White's defense? And he said chaos, that they can.
A lot of moving parts.
They can be in a lot of different looks, but it all look the same. See, that's all very interesting to me. I've said before that the D-line coach to me was maybe the most interesting.
Terrence Knighton.
Yeah, thank you, Sean.
Pot roast.
Yeah, pot roast. Because for one thing, he likes the media. he enjoys talking to us, and he is you saw each of these guys. They did it all a little different. They're all a little different. They're individuals, but they commanded the room pretty well. And I thought that was important because they have to command the room every day. They have to command their individual position room every day. And I thought each of those guys in his own way did a good job of commanding the room. And I wonder if Matt Rhule wanted to see what that looked like himself. And they did. I'd say each of them did a good job. You notice they showed up and were very engaging. Like they weren't, it was like, okay, we know the importance of this. And I thought they approached it that way. Corey Campbell was excellent. I mean, Corey Campbell in front of the cameras, this is a strength coach. He doesn't do this very often, but he handled it so well, right? You were sitting there asking questions. Sean, what'd you think?
Yeah. The biggest thing I'll say is the way he went about hiring his staff still like jumps out to me. Like he could have went out with the money he had and put together this all-star staff, big names, big egos, big personalities, guys that have it all figured out. That's not the route he went. Maybe he tried. I mean, you heard names early on like Elijah Robinson, Texas A&M, some big names out there that he was connected to. But he went with a group that he can mold to work with him. Where I think if you go out and try to hire a bunch of veteran big name guys, they already think they have it all figured out.
Some do.
And the staff kind of goes their own directions at points in recruiting and coaching and meetings. You can tell this is Matt Rhule's staff, and everybody on that staff reports to him.
No doubt.
That
really comes through.
I mean, this is his staff. Like that's my takeaway when I look at these guys.
Good look. That's a good point.
And even the coordinators, they're experienced veteran guys, but they report to Matt Rhule, and you're not going to see any assistant coaches go off and say something they shouldn't say.
No.
We've dealt with that over the years.
A little bit.
I mean, we've dealt with a lot of. I mean, think about like dealing with Bob Diaco and some of the things we've dealt with assistant coaches and post practice, call out to players. And I mean, I think this staff is very much going to be in line with the head coach.
Yeah. And I think that's what he wanted. I think that's what Matt wanted.
And, some people might say, well, he could have gotten, this is what he wanted. This is his staff. Like we've seen guys at Nebraska try to bring in big names. He wants to do it this way.